Now the base is loaded, nobody out, no wiggle room. Got to bring the infield in, and you need to move your more to find play zone.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hello. How's it going?
Baruch Hashem. Getting ready for the big day.
Oh, yeah. I think it's gonna be hot.
What?
It's gonna be hot.
You stay in shul.
Yeah.
Are we going to see you on our side of the world?
Not till Simchas Torah Shmini Atzeres.
Okay.
You'll still be in town then? Or are you gonna be in Hong
Yes.
Kong? Or?
No, no, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Okay.
I'm leaving right after Sukkot.
To where?
Hong Kong.
Uh-huh. What's happening with Canada? I can't believe they want a Palestinian
Unbelievable.
state.
Unbelievable.
Good. I'm just in Daf Yomi.
Very scary.
Yeah, the whole Australia, Canada, UK.
Oh,
UK.
wait, what was going on there?
Portugal.
Crazy.
Okay. My son wasn't there. No, just wanted to let you know that.
Where are we? Yes, 8. What are we? 9, 8.
Yeah.
Oh.
Good evening, everybody.
Think.
Okay, we're on Ches Amud Aleph. Actually, Zayin Amud Beis is on the bottom. Zayin Amud Beis is on the bottom. Chatos Minola. How do we know that a chatos, that if you have in mind a different korban, it's possible? Dichsiv v'shachat osa lechatos. Shetei shchit l'shem chatos. You have to have in mind a chatos when you shecht it. Fine. Ashkechan shchita. So that tells me that, remember, we have 4 primary avodot: shchita, kabbalah, holacha, and zrika. So kabbalah minala. What about receiving the blood? That has to be lishma. T'chsiv v'lakacha kohen midam hachatas. He took it. Should take kabbalah l'shem chatas. V'ashkechan shchita v'kabbalah. So far we have shchita v'kabbalah have to be lishma. Zrika minalan. The kapara is always achieved with zrika. So the v'chiper always goes on the zrika of the blood. Should take kapara l'shem chatas. Fine. Ashkechan shinui kodesh. That's having in mind a different type of korban when you shech the chatas. So, for example, I have in mind a shlamim or an ola when I shech the chatas. That's called shinui kodesh. Shinui ba'li minala. Chaim Yankel, Ruvain brings the chatas, and I have in mind when I shech the korban Shimon, not Ruvain. How do I know that it ruins the korban? Amar Akra, v'chiper alav v'lo chavero. Fine. Ashkechan lemitzvah. Fine. All of this may tell me that lechatchila I have to do the zrika l'shem bailim and the shchita l'shem bailim and everything. What about la'akev? How do I know that even b'di'evet, you might think I have to do it l'chatchila, but b'di'evet it works. No. La'aked that it's puzzle, no matter what, that if you change, minola. Kam Rav Una Bread Rav Yeshua, by a chatas nazir, right? Chatas nazir at the end of his nazirus has to bring korbanos, a chatas, an ashram, and an oila. Or if he's tamei, so it says chatas, and then it says chatoso. So it has to be lishma. Chanami chatas chatoso. That if you did this rika shelo lishma, it's possible. Fine. Ashkachan mitzvah b'shinui kodesh. That you showed me lechatchila, if you change the korban type, it doesn't work. And you've shown me zrika b'shinui bailim bein mitzvah bein lakev. If you have in mind a different bailim, so that's bad both lechatchila and b'diavad. What about lakev v'chol avodos b'shinui kodesh? How do I know that if I change the type of korban when I have in mind a chatas, I think about a shlomim? It's not just by shchita, but it's by all the other avodot, right? Uveshar avodos, by the other avodos that other than zrika, which I proved already. Bishinu bailim, if I have in mind different bailim, bein lemitzvah, bein lakim inolam. Am Rav Yonya asam echatas nazir, the chatas that the nazir brings. The chsiv, v'ikriv hakohen lifnei Hashem, v'asa et chatato ve'et olato. You call it Yosef Hashem Chatas. When you bring the Chatas, all of the processes that go into bringing the Chatas have to be L'Shem Chatas. Fine. Ashkachan Shinui Kodesh, La'akev. Shinui Bailim, other than Zrika, both L'Mitzvah and La'akev, how do you know? On Rav Huna, brother of Yeshua, you could have said chatas alone, but you said chataso, so it's got to be his chatas and not somebody else's chatas. Okay, so the Gemara has proven everything that it wanted to prove. However, now, maskif l'Ravina. Ravina will ask, Elamayata, you could have said also olas, but it says olato. My darashta bit. What are you darshan with that? And ularavina, where it says later on, vasa kohenet minchato ve'et nisko. There also the Torah could have written minchas, but it wrote minchato. It could have written nesech and it wrote nisko. If there's a drasha to be had by being medayek, it's not just nesech but nisko. My darashta bit. What drashas are you learning with? Oilaso, minchaso, niskoi. What are you learning? So, how the drasha of minchaso and niskoma boile? The way we learned, it says minchasam v'niskeihem. In Parshas Pinchas, we talk about all the korbanos that are brought on the various yomim tovim. Now, those korbanos, along with the primary korban, you brought a mincha, a flour offering, and you brought wine libations. Think of it as a sort of a dessert to the meat, flour and wine. Now, normally, the primary korban has to be eaten for one day, and it's in the daytime. But the hakrov of the mincha and the nesachim could be makriv even balayla. And minchasam v'niskeyam afilu l'machar. That this is talking about the nazir. That when the nazir brings his korbanos, the mincha and the yayin that comes along with it, you can bring it also at night and the next day. Fine. Elo oilos. And actually the posuk writes oiloso, my darashbu. What do you do with what drasha do you with that? So we don't have an answer. Visu, even Rav Yoina's question, what do we do with the other drashas minchas of niskayim? We're learning it from chatas nazir. How can we do that? Migamri me'adodi. How can you learn to a regular chatas that is brought when you eat chaylev or dam, which brings you kares? How can you learn it from chatas nazir, which is a different type of chatas? How can migamri me'adodi chatas chaylev me'chatas nazir loy gamra? In fact, chatas nazir is even more chomer. Shekain yesh imo damim acherim. You have to bring an ola and an asham, like I said, as part of the conclusion of the naziris. So, how can you learn? We asked the question about a regular chatas, which is a chatas chaylev, which you bring for eating chaylev or dam. How can you learn from chatas nazir? And vice versa, chatas nazir and chatas chaylev loy gamra, shekain kares. Right? When you eat chaylev or dam, you get kares, but there's no kares by naziris. So all of these drashas we did, minchasav and iskayim, is not appropriate. El amarava asya mechatas mitzora. The dinim for chatas chaylev is learned from chatas mitzora. T'chsiv. By chatas that a mitzora brings, va'asa akohenes achatas. Sheyu kol as yoysev l'shem chatas. All the processing, not just the zrika, but the shchita, kabbalah, and elocha, have to be lishma. And ashkechan shinu kodesh. Not just lishma, regarding if you did a shlamim, you can't think about an oila, but also shinu balim in olan. What about I can't think about Chaim Yankel when I'm doing it for Ruvain? Amar krov v'chiper ala mitaher. Ala mitaher azev, ala mitaher chavero. It has to be this guy getting to her and not the other guy. I ve'akati, we still have a question. Miyolfa ma'adodi. Just like we asked, how can you learn chatas chaylev from chatas nazir? Miyolfa ma'adodi chatas chaylev and chatas mitzvah yolfa. We also should not be able to learn the dinim that apply from a chatas to a chatas chaylev from a chatas mitzvah. Why? Shekain yesh imo damim acherim. A mitzora has to bring in an ola and an asham as well, and a regular chatas chaylev doesn't. And vice versa, chatas mitzora and chatas chaylev loy gamra, shekain kares. Chatas chaylev is brought for averis that you get kares. Chatas mitzora is just for purification. There's no kares there. Okay. Meichada lo yasya. One chatas to learn from the other chatas we can. But teisichada mitarti. But the Torah could have been silent by one of them, and we would have learned to the third from the two. Now, bihi lo lichto. Which chatas should the Torah have been silent, and we would have learned from the other two? Lo lichto vrachmana bechatas chaylev. Teiseme'anech. Let the Torah be silent by chatas chaylev. And I would have learned the chatas chaylev from a combination of chatas nazir and chatas mitzora. No. We said already that both by chatas nazir and chatas mitzora you have to bring an ola and an asham. Lo lichtav rachman b'chatas nazir v'teismehanech. Let the Torah be silent by chatas nazir, and I would have learned it from a combination of chatas chaylev and chatas mitzora. No malahanach shekain ein lahen she'ela. Now, a mitzora and somebody who has to bring a chatas, this is not a donative korban. They are obligated to bring, because I did an aveira, I ate chaylev, I have to bring a chatas. Because I'm a mitzora, in order to get purification, I've got to bring this. Now, a nazir is a neder, is a voluntary neder. And you can go to a chacham and ask for the original neder that you made through a she'ela and get rid of it. So you can't learn that, you wouldn't be able to learn the two to that one. Lo b'chatas mitzora. Let the Torah be silent b'chatas mitzora v'teismehanach, and I would have learned from a combination of chatas chaylev and chatas nazir malahanach shekain ein boim bedalus. Now, when you are chayiv to bring a chatas because you ate chaylev, it's a standard chatas. You got to bring a sheep or a goat. Whether you're rich or poor makes no difference. If you're a chatas, if you are a nazir, there is no sliding scale based on your wealth. You have to bring a chatas, oil, and an ashram. So you better be careful. If you become a nazir, it's very expensive because of these korbanos. Now, if you're a mitzora, the bird, it depends what kind of chatas you bring, depends on your economic status. If you're wealthy, you bring an animal. If you're wealthy, you bring 2 birds. If you're poor, you bring a mincha. So you can't learn chatas mitzora from chatas chelev and chatas nazir because there's no dali dalus by that. Hello. So we've now rejected the ability. You can't learn chatas to chatas one-on-one. We rejected all of that. You can't learn a chatas from 2. So we're back to the question: how do we know that there's shinui bailim by all the other avodot? Amar kra, zosa Torah. These are the laws: la oilav, la minchav, la chatas, la zevach hashlamim. Hikishu akasu l'shlamim. The chatas is compared to a shlamim in this pasuk, and we already learned ma shlamim ben shinu kodesh ben shinu bailim beinon lishmon lemitzvah. By shlamim, we proved from psukim that it has to be lishma and has to be for the same bailim. Lechatchila, avchatas ben shinu kodesh ben shinu bailim beinon lishmon lemitzvah. Hilkach, the Indian of mitzvah is mishlamim. That the haribat b'di'evet la'akev. Hanach cry. The other psukim that I brought, those are la'akev. Fine. Ashkachan chatas chelev. The chsiv b'lachatas. It says lachatas by chatas chelev. What about chatas shalabot zara? There's a whole special. The parsha in Vayikra talks about chatas, but later on in Sefer Bamidbar, if you commit avodah zarah, you bring a different, all sorts of different details of the dinim by chatas of avodah zarah. Or shmias kol bitus v'saim tumas migdash kedusha, which is also in a different place in Vayikra. For example, you think somebody knows edus for you, and you make him take a shvua, and he says, I don't know any edus. And it turns out he was lying. So you have to bring a sliding scale chatas. Tumas migdash kedusha, same thing. He's tamei, walks in the base of migdash, he's not sure about it. He made a mistake. There are also different dinim there. And all of these drushes that we did are min chasam, nisker, lo ksifuhu. So how do you know minolan? How do you know that they're also pasul shelo lishma? So, chatas d'avodah zarah asim and chatas chelev. Shekain kares kamosa. Standard binyanav. Binyanav you can learn from one halacha if they're similar. So if you commit avodah zarah, you get kares. You eat chelev, you get kares. So I can learn the binyanav. Madoch there, it has to be lishma. So too here, it has to be lishma. Classic binyanav. V'hanech kulu asi and the other shmias kol bitus v'sayim to the kedushav is also matzah. Is also from a combination of chatas chelev and chatas nazir and chatas mitzora. From the combination of that, says Rashi, from all of the 3 together, you can learn it to those as well. Okay. Torah Rabbah. Pesach bizmano. So when is the time to bring a korban Pesach? The 14th day of Nisan after Chatzos. Period. And you only have until Shkia to shech the korban. So you shech the korban. It's miben arba'im, a certain time in the afternoon until Shkia, and you eat the korban at night. That's the whole seder, right? So that's the Pesach shechting of Pesach bizmano is afternoon on the 14th. So if you shechted it lishmo kosher, You had in mind the Pesach, when you shechted it, no problem. But when you shechted the Pesach on Yud Daled Nisan, after Chatzos, but you had in mind that it's an Ola or a Shlomim, Shelo Lishmo Pasul. That's our Mishnah. Now there's a unique halacha that we have to keep in mind by a Korban Pesach. Bishar Yemos Hashana, Lishmo Pasul. Let's say I have designated an animal, a whole bunch of animals on the 14th, and I only used one. So I have an extra Pesach. And a month later, if I shecht it, and I have in mind Pesach, it's possible. But if I take that Pesach and I shecht it Shelo Lishmo, I shecht it L'Shem Shlomim, or I shecht it L'Shem Oila, or I shecht it L'Shem Chatas. If you take a Korban Pesach, not on the 14th day, but any other time in the year, and I shecht it Shelo Lishmo, kosher. The Gemara will tell us why. That's the halacha. Pesach sheshachtu lishmo shelo bizmano, pasul. But Pesach sheshachtu shelo bizmano, b'machshava shinui, shem havi kosher. Rambam. How do we know this? That the rest of the year, you take a Korban Pesach and you shecht it shelo lishmo, it's kosher. Amar Avu d'Shmuel Amakra, v'im min atzon korbano lezevach shlamim l'Hashem. Dover haba min atzon. What is a korban that you can only bring from tzon? Now, technically, in Chazal language, tzon is sheep or goat. Now, what kind of korban can you only bring from sheep and goat? It's Korban Pesach. So, and if it's not fit to be used for Korban Pesach, it becomes a Shlomim. Well, Ema, maybe that only works if I have in mind the Shlomim in Midiachrini Lo. See, the halacha that we've said so far tonight is that if I have a Korban Pesach in Kislev and I shecht it Shelo Lishmo, it's not just the Shlomim if I have in mind Shlomim. If I have in mind Ola, if I have in mind Chatas, that Korban Pesach can be offered as a Shlomim. But the Gemara now is saying maybe not. Maybe if I have in mind Shlomim, it's a Shlomim. But Midi Achrini Lo, Am Rav Yila, Am Rav Yochanan, it could have said the Imin Atzon Korbano Li Shlomim, but rather it said Lezevach, Le Rabbois Kol Zevach, any Korban. So any korban that you had in mind when you shechted the Korban Pesach, the rest of the year, it will turn out to be a shlom. Freit the Gemara, Ema kol deshachit lehevi kamosa. Maybe it'll be like a wild card, like a joker when you play cards. The Korban Pesach, let's say I have in mind to be an Ola, it'll be an Ola. Let's say I have in mind to be an Asham, it'll be an Asham. And maybe it shouldn't just be a Shlomim. It seems like the default Korban that it becomes, no matter what machshava you have, is Shlomim. Who says? So the Gemara says, Yaviksiv, if the Pasuk would have said, Imin atzon korbano lishlomim v'zevach, kidika amrit, then your understanding would have been correct. Hashtichsiv l'zevach shlomim, l'chol deshachit le, however you shecht it, with whatever kavana you have, shlomim lehevi, it should be a shlom. Freit the Gemara, why are you learning like that? Ema, maybe it's a klalu pratu klal. Right? The pasuk says, "Imin atzon korbano lezevach." Now, zevach is a broad category. That's a klal. It could refer to any korban. So maybe zevach klal, shlomim prat. That's a specific type of korban. So maybe I have a klalu prat, and we have a rule. It's like an equation. A klal uprat ain't bechlal elamasha beprat. What are we talking about when we talk about the generality? We're talking about the detail. Meaning, shlomim in, midi achrini lo. It means only if I have in mind, if I take a korban pesach and I have in mind in shlomim, that'll be okay. But if I have in mind anything else, no. So the Gemara says no. When it says, iminatzon korbanol zevach shlamim lashem, hoder uklal. So we don't have a klal uprat. We have a klal, the word zevach, shlomim prat, and then lashem is the final klal. So what's the difference between a klal uprat versus a klal uprat uklal? Big difference. When you have a klal uprat, it's only the detail that's mentioned. That's why we said it should be only a shlomim. But a klal uprat uklal is more expansive. Anything like shlomim, which is any kind of korban. Ola, chatas, asham, toda, period. So that's how we got to where we are so far. Maskil Rav Yaakov in our code. How can you learn this as a klal uprat uklal? Haloidami klala basra l'klala kama. The final klal is not similar to the initial klal. What? Klala kama marbi zvachim besulo. The word zevach refers to a type of korban that you do what to it? That you shecht it. The word zevach is zvicha, is shchita. So there are a lot of different matanis that we give to Hashem. So the Gemara is arguing here, when you do a klal uprat klal, the initial klal and the final klal have to be similar. And here they're not similar, because here it's zvachim, meaning only korbanos, while klal basra is lashem, which is kol Hashem, which would imply that even if you shechted the korban pesach and you had in mind a bird korban or menachos, right? La'oifos v'afilu menachos. And Hatan de Shmuel, beklali uprati dorish ki gavna. What's the shita of Tana Rabbi Shmuel? Klal uprat uklal iatadan al kenaprat. Maprat mefurish, which is a pesach that was shechted shelo lishmo, but if you shechted it l'shlamim v'kosher, avkol, any korban pesach that was shechted for another type of korban shelo lishmo v'kosher, but ima prat mefurish davar abba b'neder v'nedava, but the detail has to be similar to a shlamim, which is offered donatively, not through obligation. Av kol abba b'neder v'nedava. So, for example, Ola Shlamim in, but Chatas Vasham no, right? Because an Ola and Shlamim can be brought as donations. A Chatas and Asham can only be brought if you are required to bring it. If you've committed an Aveira that requires you to bring a Chatas, but it's not donative. So the Gemara has rejected the ability to learn in Klal Uprat Klal because the initial Klal is not like the end Klal. Ella, says the Gemara, it's not a klal uprat klal. It's a different methodology of drasha. Lizevach ribuyu. It's marbe anything. So the Gemara says, what do you mean marbe anything? Maybe when I shecht it, and I have in mind a chatas or an asham, it should be a chatas or an asham. Ravavin, no. Doichin kosher b'nachol, metzul kosher b'nachol. Okay, this will be for them. Okay, so we're going to learn tomorrow. Let's try 4 o'clock. Okay, I hope to be home in time. Everybody else to do it.
I'm not sure. I don't
Send
know.
a message if I can't make it at 4, maybe we'll do it 4:30. If that's
It's nice.
so, we'll try 4 o'clock, and then Tuesday and Wednesday we're going to do it in shul, an hour before so for Abe and for George, keep up a blot every day. So that's Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday night will be Thursday night at 7:15. That will be the schedule for the week, God willing. Thursday night is Tzom Gedalia, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be very tough.
Yeah,
Okay, so you want to, let's do it, you want to do it 9 o'clock at night?
Tzvika has his share at I don't know.
We can do
But he has his share at 8 o'clock at night also. The fast is out. I don't know what time the fast is out. Okay, that's
So he
it.
may not have a shear.
Yeah,
because-
yeah.
I saw that he has one.
Oh,
Okay, the fast is going to be over about 7:30, 7:40, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so
I don't see all these things happening on Thursday.
I would plan Thursday night at 9 o'clock. We've done that before. After Tzvika's shear, we'll learn the Daf Yomi. Sometimes we do it. Otherwise we fall behind.
I get it.
Okay, we'll talk about it more the next couple of days.
Tivayim Naran, Shana Tova to everybody.
not too
Not to buy everybody. Ktiva.
Shana
Shana
Tova.
Tova.
Shana Tova.
מקווה שתהיה.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Tonight, the Navi shears at 8 o'clock.